You're listening to the Terrific Teacherpreneur, a podcast for teachers looking to grow a successful online business. Your host, Alex, was able to transform her Teachers Pay Teachers store from a small side hustle into a profitable full-time business. She now helps other teachers do the same. Listen along for actionable tips and helpful wisdom about business and marketing as a teacherpreneur. Here's your host, Alex.
Hello and welcome to the Terrific Teacherpreneur podcast. I'm excited for this episode because I think it's a really money-making tip I'm going to share with you. And it's a really obvious one. It's something you probably are already doing, but you could be doing more of. And that's sometimes what we just need to hear is like, there's not always like this magic special piece of advice that you've never heard before. But sometimes it's having that push to do something that you've not been doing enough of that can really help transform your business. Anyway, let's dive in. So I wanted to share some data with you. First things first, I've looked all time at my years on TPT. So although I actually officially didn't start adding resources until the end of the year, I just put September of 2015 to September of 2025, so the last decade. And then I just selected 6 resources. Okay. So I just wanted to show you the sales over time, just from only 6 resources. And it said I made $48,142.52. So pretty much, let's just round it up for argument's sake and say $50,000 pretty much just from 6 resources in that time, which is pretty cool. I mean, remembering my store as a whole has over 400 resources. So it's kind of cool to think that a very small number can actually bring you pretty decent chunk of change over time. And the reason I wanted to share that today is that those resources all are connected bundles. So they are all resources in my store that are fairly similar that are bundles. And so this episode is going to be the push that you need to make and sell more bundles. A couple of stats I wanted to share with you. Overall, I did the maths, and out of all the units I've ever sold, 20% of my sales has actually come from bundles, which is not a crazy amount. But a fun fact for you, when you start looking at earnings sold, it makes up 41% of my revenue. So even though bundles only make up, 1 in 5 sales, they make $2 in 5 earned basically. And like 40%, I mean, it's almost half of my earnings from bundles. And if you have bundles in your store, you'll probably find that your story is fairly similar. If you want to dive into the data, go and have a look, just select a couple of bundles and look at the last couple of years, how much money has it brought you, especially if they're decent selling ones. You might be really shocked to be like, wow, this one bundle or this little group of connected bundles, very similar bundles, has brought me this huge amount of money. Wow. And I just thought it was really, really cool to figure out, wow, 40% of my earnings from bundles. So they are really high value products that bring in a lot more revenue than single items. And I'm not going to make this episode super long. You will know what bundling is. But if you are a newer seller, it may be that you don't have many bundles in your store yet. You haven't really got around to it. You don't really realize the value. Or if you've been selling a long time, you feel like you've got a bunch of bundles in your store. Have you got enough though? Could you be bundling more? Some little takeaways for this episode is obviously in future product creation, you always want to prioritize making product lines that can ultimately lead to a bundle instead of just random one-off resources. But when you look at your store as it is, there is always something that you haven't bundled that you could. And you think, oh, would anyone really buy that? Or that works out too expensive? Or all those resources similar enough? Whatever. Like you have to stop talking yourself out of it and find a way to bundle more stuff. And you know what I always feel like with bundles? I feel like, say, for example, you were worried no one's going to buy it because it's a really big bundle and it's going to work out really expensive. Like, it's just never going to sell. If it sells like never or maybe once even, and it just feels like, oh, that wasn't really worth it, it's actually a very small amount of effort to make a bundle. Because remember, you're not making resources from scratch. If you're just bundling things you already have, you're just creating this bundle listing on TPT and just like selecting the resources, writing your title and description and stuff. The output, like the effort of doing that listing isn't that huge amount of time. Yeah, you're going to have to whip up a cover and some thumbnails and a preview for it. And don't get me wrong, I know you're going to allocate a little bit of time to that. But considering how much time it takes to create a product, like making a bundle listing is actually a fairly quick task in comparison. And like I said, worst case scenario, it never sells or only sells like once or twice or whatever. It was not a huge effort for you to do it. Something you can do in a day, something you could probably do in less than an hour, really. And if it does work out, which it probably will, it's going to bring you massive money. Let's say, for example, that it's a $20 bundle. So you only sell it twice. That's $40 for a really small amount of work. That's awesome. Say it's a $100 bundle and you only sell it once. That's still $100. That's awesome. Okay, let's look at the best case scenario. You've talked yourself out of it because you think, oh, it's too expensive, no one's going to buy it. And you make this like $70 bundle of this like selection of resources. And it does really well. And, 10 people buy it. I mean, in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, that's $700. That's awesome. So the potential there is this huge amount of revenue. You could end up making hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, like really large amounts of money. Or if you've been around a long time like me, there's potential to make hundreds of thousands of dollars from resources. That can all happen with a really small amount of effort by bundling what you already have. I'm hoping that this little rant has motivated you to go, I'm going to go into my store and see what I could bundle. I just think that's my little takeaway for you today. Yeah. See if there's something in your store you can bundle. Don't talk yourself out of it. Just set aside an hour to make some cover and thumbnails and a preview and stuff. Make that listing, throw it up there, and you are looking at making some serious money from a pretty low amount of effort, and it's definitely worth your time. And yeah, like I said, it's pretty exciting to have, nearly $50,000 just from a handful of resources over time. I could go into way more data than this. I could start looking at this year or this month and be like, look how much money I made from this bundle. There's an endless amount I could talk about in terms of my data, but I didn't want to spend ages prepping for this podcast. I just wanted to quickly look at a couple of bundles and just have a little look. Oh, hey, how have they done over time? And just wanted to share with you that interesting stat that, almost half my revenue is coming from bundles. So bundles are where it's at. They are amazing. They are so worth it. They are where the money is. And if you're wondering, what's so special about bundles? Is it the concept of having lots of resources? What's the deal? What's the thing here? Honestly, I really just think it's the price point. I think that bundles are the main way that we can charge higher prices. We make these $3, $5, $10 resources, but when you bundle them, you can start having $20, $50, $100 bundles. It's hard to make a $100 single resource. It just doesn't really happen. In the type of business we're in, our resources are often cheaper, and at most for a single resource, someone might charge $15 or $20, but really there's, a limit. And if you want to start getting into the selling things for $50 or $100 or $200, that's where bundles come in. So they are a higher price point. And when we have a higher price point, we just simply make more money. We don't have to sell as many, but we can make really big money. And so when you've got that $3 resource in your store, you just got to sell it so many times before you can start making hundreds of dollars. And when it sells, all it's giving you is $2.40, right? But when you have a $100 bundle, if you sell it that day, bam, that's a huge chunk of change that day from that one resource. That's pretty cool. When it does sell, even if it's not that often, it's a great amount of money. But obviously the most exciting thing is over time, you only have to sell 10 of them to make $1,000. Which is pretty cool in comparison to that, $3 resource, which you've got to sell 300 times. Anyway, that's the end of this little episode. I wanted this to be a little bite-sized 10-minute episode just to push you to make more bundles. I'm hoping it's inspired you. I'm hoping it's helped. Definitely feel free to hop into the Terrific Teacherpreneur Facebook group if you want to share any wins you have around bundles, hey, this is what I did and this is what happened, just to help motivate others. Or if you have any questions about bundles, anything that's been holding you back, this is what Facebook groups are great for. As you can say, I'm just not sure about this, ask away. Or even if you want specific feedback on a listing or something, that's what groups are for. They can be so helpful. So don't do this alone. I hope that you have a terrific day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Terrific Teacherpreneur. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Come back for more actionable tips and helpful wisdom in the next episode with your host, Alex. Until then.